All right, everybody, what is going on? Good morning. Happy Thursday, making it closer to the end of the week here. And today's going to be a pretty big day for the Seahawks. First padded practice of training camp. So some of the things that we saw earlier in camp are going to get stress tested a little bit today. Like, we think that Jadarian Price looks really good, but let's see what happens today with pads on. Let's see if we hear anything there. Same with a guy like Riley Mills. Same with a guy like a Bud Clark. Things are going to start to get a little more real and serious now. So, padded practice, we'll definitely talk about that later tonight. But before we get there, I want to talk a little bit about something that on the surface doesn't involve the Seattle Seahawks, but when you dig a little bit, I think that it pretty clearly does. Talking about Baker Mayfield. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks. So, over the last couple days, and if you follow NFL news, you probably heard about this. Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are expected to end contract extension talks. So Baker Mayfield is going to do something that does not happen very often in the NFL. He is going to be a veteran quarterback that is, for the most part, perceived as a franchise quarterback who plays out the final year of his deal. You don't see that very often. Usually players always make sure that they get their extension before they're put in a situation where they might have to play on that last year. Again, it's the luxury afforded to players that are really good. It's the luxury afforded to players that can negotiate with their playing ability for long-term job security. And this is not unprecedented. It has happened before, but not every day that it happens. And there's definitely a lot to talk about pertaining to just the fact that this is happening. Obviously, there are some logical reasons why this is happening, and maybe there are some not so logical reasons. But regardless, here's the thing. So Baker Mayfield, one way or the other, is now going to be getting his contract extension next offseason. By which point it may not even be an extension. By the time he gets it, it might not be an extension. It might just be a new contract. So we'll see exactly how that plays out. But the interesting thing now is that Baker Mayfield is going to get his extension or new contract the same offseason Sam Darnold is probably going to get his extension. So we're going to get a pretty good data point on a Sam Darnold extension right before it happens, courtesy of Baker Mayfield, because one way or the other, Mayfield probably gets his before Darnold does. And I say that because, with the exception of JSN, the Seahawks usually wait until later in the offseason to extend players. Mayfield is going to get extended before free agency starts or when free agency opens within those first couple of days. So Mayfield's going to get his contract, whatever it may be, first. And we won't know for sure until we get there. But we got this tweet here from Sleeper. Jeff Darlington had a quote about the Baker Mayfield situation. Baker wants to get paid. We're talking about upwards of $50 million. And when he says that, he means $50 million a year. So Baker Mayfield is probably going to get an extension next offseason, pretty early, either an extension or a new contract, in excess of $50 million a year. And that is what Sam Darnold is going to get a chance to look at as he goes to the negotiation table. All right, guys, let's take a quick break here to talk a little bit about Prize Picks, currently the #1 sports pick app in America. The app is very easy to use. Check it out to my left here. You can do player picks, where you just pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. Or you can pick teams, where you pick winners, spread, or total on any game or fight. The app is available in most states, including California, Texas, and Florida. Right now, they have a great offer. You can play your first $5 lineup and get $150 in lineups if you win. All you have to do is use code HMA when you sign up. It's a brand new offer. Best time possible to get on the app. So get on over there and get to winning that first lineup. So remember, Prize Picks, code HMA. Download the app today and remember to always gamble responsibly. Now, I'd like to remind people, because obviously it can be a little bit hard to judge one quarterback versus another, and it's easy to lose perspective on things. Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold have a lot in common. They were both high draft picks. Baker Mayfield first overall, Sam Darnold third overall. Uh, both players that went in the same draft, actually, right? The 2018 draft. Both players that initially had some issues, didn't really work out at their initial starting points, bounced around the league for a minute, looked like it was over, right? Baker did have some nice moments in Cleveland, but ultimately didn't work out. Carolina, LA Rams. He looked like he was down for the count. Same with Sam Darnold, right? Jets, Panthers, Niners. Looked like just another bust. But both guys have taken advantage of their extra opportunity. Baker became the starting quarterback for the Buccaneers, made back-to-back Pro Bowls, led them to a playoff win in 2023, threw 41 touchdowns in 2024. Now, this last year, didn't play great, started great. He was playing great to start the season, fell off. A lot of things happened. A lot of players got hurt. He himself may have gotten hurt. We don't totally hold what happened in 2025 against Baker Mayfield, I think. I think we all understand that. But it's been a great 3-year resurgence for Baker Mayfield. He's really found himself and become a guy that a lot of people would call a franchise quarterback. Sam Darnold done the same thing. 2 great years, one in Minnesota, one in Seattle, right? Redefined himself as a Pro Bowler, a winner. And unlike Baker Mayfield, the main difference, yeah, Baker might have slightly better numbers if you take a look at this, right? Because he had the 41 touchdown season. He had a season where he completed almost 71.5% of his passes. Like, the numbers are probably a little bit better for Baker. But Darnold's got that Super Bowl, right? He's got 2 14-win seasons. So I'm not saying that Sam Darnold is better than Baker Mayfield, but I am saying that he's probably got a better negotiation leverage situation than Baker Mayfield. And if Sam Darnold has a really good season this year, if the Seahawks win a lot of games and Darnold plays well the way that he did last year, or even a little bit better, then he's going to go into that offseason next year. And he's going to be feeling like, I'm on top of the world. I know maybe I'm not as good as Josh Allen, but you know what? I'm the guy. I'm the guy, and I want to get paid like the guy, because these last couple of years on that contract he signed with the Seahawks last offseason, he was not. So let me ask you this. If Baker Mayfield, let's say Baker plays well this year. Let's say Baker, obviously we're not talking about 41 touchdowns again. That would be a little bit, that's overzealous. But if he plays good, let's say he gets a contract that's like $52 million a year from Minnesota or Tampa or whoever. Doesn't really matter. And let's say Sam Darnold's looking at that and he's thinking about his extension. Now, the circumstances are a little bit different because Darnold will still have 1 year left on his deal. So the urgency won't be there. However, is he going to be able to go, look, we're doing a lot more winning than Tampa has done with Baker. My numbers are comparable, maybe not quite as good, but comparable. And I've succeeded on 2 different teams. Baker's only ever had this success with Tampa Bay. So would he be successful like this on other teams? I don't know. But with Darnold, there's reason to believe that as long as the situation is favorable, he can make it work at a high level. Baker, I mean, I know that Tampa Bay situation got ugly last year, but that's when Baker's play dipped. When things were good in Tampa Bay, you had Liam Cohen, one of the best play callers in football, and a lot of offensive talent over there, a lot of fun stuff happening with that offense. I think with Darnold, it's a little bit more proven that you can change things around him. You can take away some of the things that he leans on, and he'll find other things to lean on. But beyond all that, he'll be next, right? Maybe he won't be literally the next quarterback who gets paid. Guys like Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Drake May, like that crew, those guys might get paid next offseason too, but Darnold isn't really going to be comparing himself to those guys. He's going to be comparing himself to a comparable player, which is Baker Mayfield, I think. And if Baker gets $52 million a year, is Sam Darnold going to step up and say, hey, I got to get that. I got to get even a little bit more than that. I've won you guys a Super Bowl, plus whatever we do this year. I've made Pro Bowls now, and I haven't really gotten paid the monster bucks yet because the first deal I took with the Seahawks was pretty reasonable, kind of like Baker. Another comp with Baker, right? Because Baker's contract with Tampa that he took a couple years ago was a bargain. So Baker now wants to get paid in part because of that. Darnold's probably in the same boat. So what if Darnold is like, hey, $55 million a year? And if he wants that, does he deserve that? Should we give it to him? I mean, look, if Baker's going to get 52, then yeah, that's kind of the world you live in at that point, right? And you look at some of these other quarterbacks that are making obscenely high amounts of money. We've done it before. I don't feel the need to go over every single example of it again, but if Baker Mayfield gets what he's aiming for, over $50 million a year, I don't see how Darnold takes less than that unless he's just a really cool guy, right? And in a vast majority of cases, players getting paid is more important than being a cool guy. So what does this team do if that happens? Because unless Darnold has a bad season, which I know we don't want, because it probably means the team didn't do very well, then what do we do? What's the right thing to do at that point? Like, could you imagine if this team repeats as Super Bowl champions this year? Darnold might ask for 60. Do we give it to him? Sure seems like this is where it's headed, one way or the other. That's a tough one. That's a tough decision. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. Maybe we'll get some more news later. And like I said, the training camp, padded practice, definitely going to talk about that later tonight. But just something to think about as we cruise towards this 2026 season, because there's a lot of guys to pay on this team, and we can do it. There's a lot of money, right? Like, we got to pay Murphy. We got to pay Leonard Williams. We got to pay Eamon Worry at some point. Witherspoon's going to come down any day now, it looks like. There will come a day where we have to pay Gray Zabel. But Sam Darnold's looming in here as well, and this is a very intriguing crossroads for John Schneider, because he's shown a willingness to move off a quarterback if he's not feeling it. And right now we're feeling Sam Darnold. We're feeling really good about him because he just helped us win a Super Bowl, but are we feeling good about Sam Darnold at $55 million a year? Are we feeling good about paying him more than Lamar Jackson is getting from Baltimore, or, Joe Burrow's getting from Cincinnati? Changes your perception a little bit. Maybe you still do it because that's the way things are right now. But if anybody would be willing to say, you know what, I'm not playing this game anymore, we'll trade you, we'll try to find another good quarterback, it's John Schneider. He's done it before. All right, guys. So I don't see any other way this ends. Darnold is going to come into the offseason next year, as long as he plays well and the team does well, expecting a monster extension. And we're going to have a decision to make. All right. Go Hawks. See you guys later. And more stuff soon.